Hey, welcome back to Weenie Trades. In this video, I'm going to be giving an FOMC recap and then just evaluating what might be happening next with SPY and the VIX, so the S&P 500 and the Fear Index. And then I'm just going to be breaking down a few of these stocks over here on the left, Hood, Lucid, and then the social media stocks, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter. So let's get right into the video. SPY had a pretty decent green day today, up about a little bit under 1%, but it was more so a doji day. We were talking about how, there's these wide expected moves, and we're looking at the options chain, and the options chain wasn't really pricing much upside in the market, but it was pricing in a lot of downside in the market. So we didn't really get much of either, I'd say. I'd say we're very relatively muted on the session. And this was just one of those things where, there's a lot of bulls, there's a lot of bears. Everybody's talking about the different positions that they've got, calls, puts, but really everybody had an opportunity. We had a pretty big downside move. We had a pretty big upside move. So it's pretty interesting to see what SPY did today. But moving forward, well, clearly we have a level of resistance at 440. If we get above 440, we could have the gap fill intact. And again, gaps today were really on point. Just for example, on Google, we were talking about 28.17, and that was the gap that represents this bold line. Boom, touched it to the penny, nasty sell-off. So gaps, I do find are a little bit important, but they're not the end-all be-all. The gap on SPY, it's just a reference point. Again, gaps are more so just areas where if we're beneath it, the ball still might be in the bear's court. As long as we're underneath, call it on SPY 441. So SPY, even if we break today's high, we might only have like $1 of upside. If SPY starts to roll over, we could see a little bit more downside. But again, we talked about that 429 likely being the low of the week earlier in the week. So 429, so far that looks like it might be the low of the week. Otherwise, it's range bound until it is not. Otherwise, 436 seems to be the short-term pivot. So watch out for 436. Slight favor to the bulls if we're above 436. Slight favor to the bears if we are beneath 46 on the SPY. Next up, we've got the VIX, and the VIX gave back its gains. We talked about that. The VIX likes to give its gains back right away. Now the question is, will the VIX hold support? We're looking for a potential bottom fish on the VIX if it's getting oversold into this zone, because we need to kind of hold these higher low trends. It's more likely that it bounces from the lower trend line than just bust straight down and go through them. So VIX, looking for a potential buy on the VIX, anything underneath 20, but 19 seems to be a potential buy point in the VIX for calls. Again, none of this is financial advice. This is just a hypothetical trade setup that I may or may not take live at Weenie Trades Live. But anyways, the VIX, if we can start to hold that and bounce, great. If not, it looks like the fear is slowly creeping out of the market. But is this the time where we put in a higher low and higher high? Odds favor that we don't just bust through the highs on the VIX and that we might just chop around just a little bit. So keep an eye on the VIX. We're still above 20, and so fear is still relatively high compared to in the past. So it'll be interesting to see where the VIX is headed, but volatility could just start to contract just a little bit. Hood had an amazing trading day today, up over 10%, 10.85%, with a beautiful daily bull break. So I was saying Hood, it's bearish if it holds underneath 40. Well, Hood never really got underneath 40. It looks like that support level held, get a little bit of a wedge, and today we start to break out. Looks like positive crypto news, crypto wallets. It'll be interesting to see what Hood does into the future. But anyways, it was in the title of today's live stream, and Hood, we got a nice, good, beautiful move higher, pullback, bullish little hammer right over here, bullish little pin bar, boom, buy, Hood right there. Nice, easy trade. Stop loss goes right underneath that wick, and boom, scale off profits into strength, and then stop out break even on the last third. So very interesting move on Hood. Got as high as 47.44 in the after hours. So the question is, what's next for Hood? Well, we're a little bit extended. So if Hood is to gap up, you'd want it to get as extended into as possible in the resistance, and it might actually be a good short trade up there in the upper 40s, maybe as high as 51. Otherwise, Hood, it's a little bit late to be buying now, as long as it can hold support of 43.27, so 43, call it. Boom, that could be a little bit of support and it could bounce. Otherwise, extended into resistance could be a little mean reversion type trade. 49.73 seems to be a stretch target for Hood. 49.73. Next up, we've got LCID and Lucid having a rough day today, down almost 7%. And we were talking about this. You can't really be chasing Lucid after it's already broken out. There was great breakouts over 20, but when you're already this extended, you're extended into resistance. We're either going to pull back and go straight down, or we're going to pull over or just go sideways, kind of just consolidate. Normally, after a big move up, you can't just expect it to do another big move up, especially in extended into resistance. So Lucid, congratulations to anybody that caught the short trade. We had a resistance level at 27.61. Today, spiked it and then just got demolished all day. So Lucid, very nice downside momentum. The question is, where is the bottom? Where's support? Well, you can see that there's a lot of congestion right here in this little area. There's a lot of upper wicks over here. Do you see that? So a lot of sellers took some short positions, probably right up at that level, right about 23.40. So if Lucid is coming into 23.40 early tomorrow or later in the week, that might be a potential dip trade for an oversold bounce. You know, let it bounce. And then you can put your stop underneath that bottom end of the demand zone. And maybe Lucid can get back up to maybe something like 25. Again, that would be resistance then, and you wouldn't expect Lucid to break through the highs. So short-term trading, Lucid, pretty interesting in terms of an oversold dip trade if it comes up later in the week. Otherwise, Lucid, if we look at the daily time frame, just range bound. So we still might just be range bound. It'll be interesting to see where Lucid heads. Otherwise, I'd be bearish underneath 22.76. on Lucid Motors, CCIV. Maybe now I think about it. Facebook got clapped today off a negative news catalyst, and we've got quite a bit of volume on this down move. We recently broke this trending support. So right here, we can see a low, higher low, higher low, higher low. Tried to hold support, failure. So Facebook got clapped today, and we talked about this support down here at 340.70. Boom, it creeped in that level. Boom, nice good bounce off of that level. Drawn many weeks before this day. Very interesting, 1.72% bounce. But besides that, Facebook, see how it's still holding even in the after hours. I would expect Facebook could potentially get a little bit more of a bounce off of this level and probably retrace up into the upper 340s. So maybe as high as 349, 348, 348 area. I wouldn't be too bullish on Facebook though after this move. I wouldn't expect Facebook to V-shape to the highs. Although it's a great company, they make a lot of money. I've never been too thrilled about Facebook. Anyways, Facebook, watch out for lots of resistance at 356 now. If it ever gets back up there, I might be interested in potentially shorting it. But anyways, Facebook looks like it wants to go sideways to slightly higher. Sure, it could break today's low, but it probably wouldn't get much further to the downside. So very nice move on Facebook today. Snapchat is our next social media stock, and Snapchat on the daily time frame actually looks very bullish. It looks very constructive. We've moved higher off of the amazing earnings report. Analysts were completely off, somebody was off, or Snapchat just killed it, maybe a little bit of both. Anyways, we've moved higher, that creates the flagpole, and now we're just getting chart vibration. This is building energy, usually to make another move higher. Generally, the length of the flagpole indicates the direction. It doesn't have to move higher. Of course, we've broken out and rejected earlier. Maybe it was just too soon on Snapchat. But anyways, Snapchat early in the morning, I actually was looking for a short setup off of the sympathy from Facebook. And that just means it's kind of in the same sector. If Facebook's getting clapped and dropping, so might Snapchat. And I just took this short trade right underneath 75 with a stop loss above 75.50. Once we failed to make a low of the day, I just trailed in my stop, took break even, and boy, am I glad I did that. Look at that massive move higher that Snapchat had off after that. And that's due to, hey, if everybody is bearish and they jump in short, the market loves to squeeze the most amount of people. And Snapchat, nice good trend all day. So Snapchat of the social media stocks is my favorite, more so, and it's my actually favorite social media app. But in terms of the chart, it actually looks great as well. We're holding above the midpoint of the range. Getting above this breakdown candle high, 75.50, was really good. So Snapchat, if the market is bullish, I actually might be looking for a potential all-time high breakout on Snapchat. And I really love those setups, mostly because they give great liquidity to sell on those pushes. So it'll be interesting to see what Snapchat does. Bullish if we can break above $80 a share. I might be looking for a long trade. Otherwise, It's range bound until it's not. We've hit this top many, many times. What's to say we don't hit it again and drop on off? So Snapchat, keeping an eye out for it. Twitter is our last social media stock that I'll be breaking down today. And look at Twitter. Nice, good symmetrical triangle. So we're making a high, low, lower high, higher low. Which way are we going to pinch? We're making lower highs. That's the pressure from the bears. But the pressure from the bulls is pressing up those higher lows. Eventually, we could get to the apex. That's the end of the little squeeze, the little triangle pattern. Yep, shapes are important sometimes, but the buyers and sellers are way more important for sure. So it'll be interesting to see if we start to break upside or to the downside. I would say it's very logical to say that it might break out after its earnings report. Twitter over here on October 26th after market. So that might break Twitter to the upside. It could break Twitter to the downside. It looks like the breakout point to the upside is that 70, maybe a little bit higher, 75, and that breakdown to the downside, tight breakdown underneath 60, and then 55 would be the next breakdown. Also, beautiful little pennant right there on the intraday time frame. And you can see that. Look at that. Textbook. Move higher. Consolidation, breakout, but not only just a breakout on a nice good increase in volume. Twitter, nice good trend day for it. So that concludes today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. Drop a like, hit subscribe, and hopefully you learned something new. And we'll get ready for more action at Weenie Trades Live. And Peter says, check out the course. Bye-bye.